For those not immersed in hi-fi, recognizing the nuances of speaker design between different brands can be a challenge. Then there are brands like Devialet and speakers like the Phantom Ultimate 98dB. There is no mistaking these for another box speaker. But does the striking design get backed up with sonic performance? Let's find out. Devialet updated their speaker range in September 2025 with two new models, the Phantom Ultimate 98dB and the Phantom Ultimate 108dB. Both of these models are fully active wireless speakers that support all of your usual music dealing suspects. This includes AirPlay, Google Cast, Spotify Connect, Tidal Connect, UPnP, Roon, and Bluetooth 5.2. Though the Phantom Ultimate 108dBs get bumped up to Bluetooth 5.3. Supporting that mix of services is a Wi-Fi 5 chip in the 98dBs and a Wi-Fi 6 chip in the 108dBs, both of which are compatible with the 2.4 and 5 GHz bands over 802.11 A, B, G, N, and AC. For wired connectivity, both models offer physical connections via Ethernet and Mini Toslink. Not the biggest variety of physical connection options, though for my setup, there was nothing that I felt was missing. For color choices, there's a light pearl, which is a matte off-white enclosure with silver metallic trim, and deep forest, a dark green finish with this green metallic trim. There's also an even more extravagant Opera de Paris finish that combines a matte white with hand-adorned gold leaf side plates for those that appreciate the finer things in life. In this review, I was sent the standard light pearl colorway, which just so happened to fit my space nicely. Each Devialet Phantom Ultimate 98dB retails for $1,900 USD, $2,400 Canadian, 1,500 euros, or 1,400 British pounds. If you did want to step up to that previously mentioned Opera de Paris version, there's an additional premium for that gold leafing, with each speaker priced at $2,400 USD, 2,700 Canadian, 1,800 euros, or 1,650 in British pounds. For the stereo pair shown here, that comes to $3,800 USD, $4,800 Canadian, 3,000 euros, or 2,800 British pounds. And if you want to complete the setup with Devialet's Tree speaker stands, each can be had for $299 USD, 309 Canadian, 199 euros, or 199 British pounds. As I unpacked each of these speakers from their box, my first thought was at how physically small and dense they were. A large part of the density of these speakers is the cast aluminum frame that reduces vibrations and resonances, as well as acts as a natural heatsink to help dissipate heat. Along with the weight, the finishes and fine details really help give you the feeling that you're holding a well-designed, luxurious product. Devialet packed a number of their core technologies into the Phantom Ultimate 98dB speakers. These technologies include analog digital hybrid, ADH, heart bass implosion, HBI, speaker active matching, SAM, and adaptive volume level, AVL. Each technology serves to get the most out of the hardware, and for more detailed explanation of how these acronyms give you better sound, you could read AJ Wykes' written review on the Phantom Ultimate 98dB speakers on SoundStage Simplifi. Speaking of hardware, each speaker's mid to high frequencies are handled by a single aluminum dome driver, with two 4.5-inch side-firing aluminum woofers handling the bass. 400 watts of amplification tie everything together and culminate in a rated frequency response of 18 Hz to 25 kHz and a maximum SPL output of 98 dB. Hence, the 98 dB in the name. As the units I was reviewing came right from SoundStage founder Doug Schneider, he provided a warning that the resetting and setup process could be a challenge. Specifically, he mentioned the power button on the back of the units were a bit tricky to hold down for the required time to initiate that reset. In my experience, it was pretty straightforward and mostly painless. I did have the Devialet companion app already pre-downloaded from the App Store, and I fired it up as soon as I had both speakers connected to power. This might have made the process a bit easier on me. Just as Doug mentioned, one of the 98 dBs did seem as though the power button was depressed all the way, though it took me an extra beat of increasing pressure before I was met with a chime letting me know that it was ready to start its new life. The other speaker seemed to have a much smoother power button that activated with the first press with no other drama. For the remaining time I had these speakers, I didn't have to reset them and I just kept them powered on. So for me, that power button issue, although annoying for that first initial setup or restarting process, it didn't impact me on the day-to-day. As the Devialet app walks you through the setup process, it gives you the option to use each of the Phantom Ultimate 98 dBs as a single source or combine them into a stereo pair. There's different use cases where I can imagine buying an individual speaker and setting it into different rooms of the house, But for this review, and for my own personal preferences, I wanted to set these up in a stereo 2-channel setup, so that's exactly what I did. Devialet recommends that the speakers be placed about 30 centimeters from the wall to allow for natural reflections of the bass. In my bookshelf setup, I only get about half that. So I wanted to check out the EQ settings right off the bat to help with any excess bass that may be a result of having the speakers so close to the wall. There's 3 different modes the speakers can be in: movies, music, and podcasts. Inside each of these modes, you can adjust the EQ profiles to suit your needs. The profiles include default, which is a flat response; dynamic, which ups the bass, reduces the mids, and ups the highs; clear, which lowers the bass, maintains a flat midsection, and slightly elevates the highs; soft, which keeps the bass flat, lowers the mids and upper mids, and keeps the highs flat; or custom, where you can completely go to town. I ended up settling on the clear profile to reduce the low frequencies and then slightly adjusted from there. This gave me the perfect balance for my space and is the profile that I used for the remaining time that they were on my bookshelf. Before I even pressed play, I caught myself marveling at the appearance of these speakers. Visually, they're stunning. Their compact size, solid construction, and fine details add to a charm that emanates from them as soon as they're set up. Most of the time I had with the Phantom 98dBs, I kept them on my bookshelf in our living room, where they looked at home surrounded by other knickknacks without screaming for attention. They have a subtle elegance that I really enjoyed. Typically, my wife is indifferent or sometimes opposed to the speakers that I place in her home. The Phantom 98dBs were an exception. She was more than happy to have them set up and really sad to see them go. That alone was a huge selling point for me, as it allowed me to have a high-quality system in the heart of our home while keeping the peace. Once I snapped out of my trance, I hit play and started to get a sense of how these speakers performed acoustically. The inaugural song, Murder by Numbers by The Police via Spotify, being airplayed directly from my phone. After that first song, I was thoroughly impressed and kept going. The stereo pair of Phantom 98dBs easily filled my room with a beautiful combination of clear highs, powerful mids, and bass that commanded attention. I felt they had a smooth and slightly warm sound that was very fun to listen to across my range of musical tastes. The bass is always tight and impactful, the mids were clear and natural, and the highs were detailed and clean. There's a lot of options in this price range, and probably even a lower price range, that are perfectly good speakers. Speakers are systems that are capable of producing just as much output with their own distinct sound that will leave you impressed. I believe what the Phantom 98dBs offer is all of that, plus a level of style and allure that I don't often see in other speaker brands. There hasn't been one guest through our house that hasn't mentioned these speakers when they were set up. They are definitely a conversation starter and offer this natural invitation to interact with their design and play your music. Acoustically, there is really nothing that I would change. I think they perform great, especially for their size, and the bass is just phenomenal. I'm still blown away. There's a few little things that I would tweak personally. I'd love to see the speaker stands have internal cable routing to keep that clean aesthetic when they're on stands. I personally would also prefer physical buttons as opposed to the capacitive touch that I find on top to control volume. Obviously, that power button was an issue for Doug Schneider when he was going through the setup process. I didn't really have as much of an issue with it, but it is something that would be nice to kind of tweak or fine-tune. It is very easy for me to recommend checking out the Phantom Ultimate 98dBs, especially if you want high-quality sound and something that's aesthetically different that acts as a bit of a conversation starter. In rooms that are small, medium, and if you want to go large, you can step up to the 108dBs, these are a great option to investigate. Are there other speakers out there in this size or price range that have impressed you based on their design and acoustics? Would the Phantom 98dBs fit into your household style? Let me know in the comments below.